Welcome back to Booked, the podcast that helps you get booked on more podcasts. My name is Spencer Carpenter, and this is my co-host,
Amanda Foley.
And today we are going to discuss a pretty hot topic, video in podcasting. And even further, should you or should you not focus on in-person video podcasts versus virtual? So I'll start off with one of my, biggest clients that I've booked, on mostly, well-known shows, only does in-person video podcast. He has a larger profile, and he's also talking about addiction, and it's his story. It's something very personal to him, and he doesn't want to try and talk about this important subject, an emotional subject, via video. Mm-hmm. And I have another client that I mentioned that's trying to do a book tour right now around him talking about his trauma. He's similar in that it's not even that he has a big profile or an ego or anything. He's just like, I get emotional talking about this, mm-hmm. and it feels weird to do that over Zoom, and trying to connect with the person on the other side. And so, that's one reason why some people look at it, but also, this is why we are doing this instead of virtual, is mm-hmm. We want better quality video for the content we're going to produce. And it's easier for us to talk about this in person. When we go back and forth, we're quick when we talk, and it's harder to do that when there's a lag over the internet. So how important do you feel this is for your clients in person versus virtual?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It's an interesting question because I know that my clients all love doing in-person interviews. And I think once a client gets a taste for the in-person interview, it's really hard to feel as satisfied, I think, by the virtual interviews. However, what I've said before, and I'll say again, is that it can be really difficult to do only in-person interviews.
It
depends on the client. I mean, if you have a bigger name, sometimes they can get away with doing, 10 interviews a year or whatever, because what I'll say is that I'll go here in that I'll say you're better off filling in with the virtual interviews, because again, like I said, from a perception perspective, it looks like you're everywhere when you're mm-hmm. doing a lot of interviews versus just the big ones. And the ones that are in person, it can be really challenging, both because my one client is in Australia, as we've mm-hmm. talked about. And so she's only here once or twice a year. And although she's here for an extended period of time, trying to actually align her trips with production schedules of these big shows, it becomes like a puzzle that is almost impossible to put together. Mm-hmm. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but it's, you'll get a yes, but they'll say, well, we're not recording again until September and she's here in July. So it can be really challenging. Now, I have another US client who also loves to do in person and will travel just for one interview, right?
Sure.
So she'll go to New York, she's based in Memphis and California part of the time. She would fly to California, even if she's on the East Coast, mm-hmm. to do the right interviews. So, but again, I would never recommend that she only do that, because for the reasons stated, it can be really, really challenging. And I don't care who you are, those big in-person interviews are always going to be fewer and further between. I mean, unless you're a celebrity that everybody wants to talk to at this moment, in which case they're going to bend over backwards to accommodate, which I would say, even though our clients are well known, they're not that.
Sure.
So that's kind of I think in-person is great. I love when we get them, but I would never steer clients away from doing both.
It's a time investment. It's even bigger. It's a money investment.
Yeah.
And I've had entire, podcast tours for, a trip to LA for a client where we have 6 shows
you
lined
do
up,
a bunch
and one thing changes for
and the whole thing,
the show that we find the most important, and now we have to shift the entire week.
Yes, because you start with an anchor, right? That's how when I book the in-person tours in a city, I get one anchor, and then you start to build around that.
Right.
And to your point, one little thing can change the whole plan.
Yeah, I've started turning people away if they tell me they only want the in-person video podcast. And I don't feel confident that it's possible.
No, especially at the volume, depending on the volume that they expect as well.
Yeah. And I even have a group right now with about 8 professional podcast strategists and bookers,
Mm-hmm.
and we tried to put together a spreadsheet of all the podcasts that are video.
Yeah. I've shared mine with you, right? I think I
Yeah.
have one too. Yeah.
There's like a few dozen, and most are LA and Austin. Somehow we've got very few in New York.
Yeah, there's
even though
not as many in New York
I know
as you would think.
Yeah, there must be more, but like there's no database for this.
No. Like, and even you would think that some of the like the systems that we pay for would maybe like note that, because that's what I spend.
I've told them to start digging into it, and it just
I spend a lot of time doing that when I am trying to book an in-person tour,
Yeah.
like being like, well, wait, do they record here? Where do they live? You know, and it's really LinkedIn is helpful, because I think most people keep their LinkedIn. And a lot of the hosts are
Sure.
on LinkedIn. They keep their profiles up to date, and you can kind of see at least where they're based.
Mm-hmm.
But some of the ones that you would like, I would think would be in person. I'm like, oh, like they're doing all their videos.
yeah, they're doing it in New York or something.
Yeah, or like via Riverside. Like they're not all doing them in person. Like, or they
Yeah.
do take virtual, and like they do a
Yeah.
combo, I
Yeah,
guess I
yeah.
would say.
Well, so we're definitely saying it's easier to book virtual. You should book virtual. That's going to be most of what you do.
Oh yeah.
But do not make that the only bar. Now, there are some people that say, why do I need to do in person? I've booked 50 virtual and I've gotten this much money out of it. You know,
if they're happy with that, they don't
Yeah.
have to. And especially because they're getting the video assets in 99% of the case.
Well, that's just it. Is if this is something like I just had a client. He lives in Salt Lake. He got an invitation to one in Phoenix. There's no other podcast I know in Phoenix, but this is this one is typically ranked number one in its category, and he, I said, hey, you can do this one in person. I recommend you do it. And he even he has a consultant that we work with together, and he said, well, what's your opinion? And that guy was like, yeah, if you can afford to do it and you have the time, you should
go do
because
it.
it's
Oh yeah, I would never say don't do an in-person interview.
yeah,
ever.
it's worth if you've got the money, it's worth it. If you don't have money to lose, just recognize you might only get views and SEO out of it. And that's the hard part is like, if somebody were to come to us right now and say they wanted to be on our podcast and film it here, I'd be like, you can if you want, but like we probably, this is a niche show. We probably don't have a ton of viewers, and I don't know if it's going to be worth your time. But if you want to come into Westchester Studios,
And
shout
have a
out Gabe,
conversation, sure.
and get some some quality in-person video content, let's do it. If that is worth it to you, if it's almost like you're putting money into marketing assets. And now I also believe though that if people are putting money into something like this, there's a good chance they're also putting money into marketing it. And so you might get an outsized return in terms of views or whatever. But it's just important to recognize that like, just like we've talked about with paying to be on a podcast.
Yeah. Which you don't have to do.
No,
there's
you
so
don't
much
have to
opportunity for earned.
If you're
placements.
going to invest that money, expect you're getting nothing out of it other than experience.
Unless you have a product. I would say product is probably the one place where I think there can
Physical
be
product? Like
physical
something you can
product,
show
like a
on the
consumer
video?
product, like a
Sure.
CPG brand.
Yeah.
I know a lot of them pay and a lot of shows charge for CPG placements.
Right.
And I get that because they actually could sell something
Right.
on the heels of the
Yeah.
discussion.
I don't see that much on podcasts though.
Yeah, I have some friends that work like primarily with CPGs, and they do actually get plenty of earned placements. But then I have like friends that have worked on like big, like some skincare brands and things like that, where the founders have a unique story.
Yeah.
And they would go on like the big Dear Media shows and be spending like tens of thousands of dollars for those placements, but they would sell
Sure.
6 figures in product.
Right.
Afterwards.
Yeah,
So
I
that's what I would say is like the one exception. And you'd have to have a pretty big consumer product brand. To,
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's funny. I have a call with like an ad agency tomorrow, and it was originally talking about like, hey, you have the CEO of well-known company that wants to run ads for her new podcast. Do you want me to go get them booked on podcasts? And he's like, we actually have brands come to us all the time looking for paid podcasting opportunities. So let's chat. So that is something I'm about to break into, I guess.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you about that.
Well, I have friends that you could talk to if you're interested, like affiliate stuff, that deal with like the affiliate. I don't really dabble in that. I mean, my clients have affiliate programs, but
Sure.
it's not like from that. It's a little bit different. It's more just like they use it to help the host make some money off the promotion. But yeah, I can definitely connect you with some people that are well versed in that area.
But to your point about like once you've experienced it, it does. I don't want to say it ruins the virtual.
It does a little. It minimizes
this in-person connection is great. And like I did one right about now with Ryan Alford, and when I'm short on content, I just go back and repurpose those clips all the time because they were quality, and I've got a lot of them. And so it's like I can use them every quarter.
Yeah.
They're timeless because they look good.
You're very good at doing that.
Well, thank you.
You are.
And so if you can find even like 3 or 4, or even, if you can land more than that, you could have a great content machine.
Oh, yeah.
And if somehow everything you talked about a year ago is now no longer in play, you can just go back to those hosts and like film again.
Yeah.
And then and still continue. So when you think about podcasts as a marketing tool or a content machine,
yeah, like what you're using after the interview in terms of promotion, sure.
The in-person stuff, I feel just lasts so much.
It's higher quality.
Yeah. But I know people that film stuff at home and they can repurpose it all day. This is how I feel.
And that's what. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. It's funny. You're making me think. Even as we're talking here, this is probably more of a side conversation. But I was like, I think the only way I would probably take a client that wanted only in person would be more of like I would do like a low retainer and then a payment per placement. I think would be the only way I maybe would do that.
So my original structure was like I would just do 5 podcast campaigns for people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and then it took as long as it took.
Yeah,
like that.
And that was how I did it for all, and I just usually delivered really quick. And then if they wanted to do another one, I would do it. I started charging more for if they wanted to do just in-person video, but I found it was harder. It took longer.
It takes so long because I'm telling you, it has so much to do with the production schedules. Like some of them batch and do it in seasons, and then the whole season's done. It's funny. I actually was just thinking that yesterday. I was like, I need to go back to the ones that like at the end of last year I had pitched and were interested, but they were like, oh, but we're done filming.
Yeah,
and this will be like in June. They'll be like, oh yeah, we're done filming for 2025.
Yeah.
So I just kind of remembered. It's like, I should go back and do that. I thought you reminded me again.
So
I didn't put it on my list.
If you are in a major metro, there is probably a studio like this. And if you're in the outskirts of a major metro, there might be studios like this. Find those studios. See if there's a show recording there that you could pitch yourself to. Because if you can get a few of these, it's fantastic. And that doesn't require hotels or or flights or anything. And it'll be great content for you, and you're going to find that you connect with the host a lot easier. But if you want to stick to virtual, it's fine. There are far more podcasts that record virtual, and with technologies like Riverside, like they're still going to have assets they can give you. If you want to make the quality look a little bit better on your end for your own clipping, get some lights. Or a light, like just look it up a little bit, a YouTube tutorial on how to make your home office look, better production wise. Get a mic like this or a Shure mic or something. They're one-time investments for a few $100, and you can have great content even without being in person. And
that is actually something that you're pointing out that's very important, which is with even the virtual is like your background is so super important. I realized that too.
That's why we do it here. I live in an 800 square foot house where there's not a single good angle to record.
Yeah.
It always
you don't
looks
have a
weird.
spot to do it.
And so that is, I'd rather do it here and have
then
it
try
look
and
good.
set it up. Yeah. We switched where my office was with my son's bedroom, and I was like, oh no, I need to figure out what's going to go behind me. And then I hang this cool piece of art, and then it's got reflective glass, and then it screws up the whole thing. So then I'm taking it to the framing gallery. I mean, it's a lot of work to trying to does the plant go here? I get it, but for the clients that we're working with, it also is really important to even if you can not have the blur background, I think it just looks professional to have, not for us because we're not necessarily,
Sure.
going on podcasts all the time, but for them, if they're doing a lot of shows, it definitely will help them for social repurposing if they have a background that looks nice.
Yeah. So Do in-person video if you can, but don't don't let
Yeah,
it
don't
dissuade you.
focus
Still
solely on it.
do as
Yeah.
many virtual as you can as well. So that's it for this episode of Booked, the podcast that helps you get booked on more podcasts. Again, my name is Spencer Carpenter. I own Outlier Audio, and this has been my co-host.
Amanda Foley, Curate Your Soul, Public Relations.
And we'll catch you on the next one.